A cherished desire of my grandmother was to witness Emily and me tying the knot. However, on our special day, Emily abandoned me at the altar. It turned out that her boyfriend had been involved in a minor car accident, prompting her to leave me and all the guests, trailing her elaborate wedding gown to rush to the hospital. That evening, she became a trending topic on social media for her act of wearing her wedding dress to the hospital out of love. Netizens envisioned her as a devoted woman, proposing to her ailing boyfriend while adorned in a wedding dress. They were moved by her romantic act. Her boyfriend even shared a photo of their intertwined hands with the caption, "You always come to me when I need you." During the wedding, my grandmother passed away peacefully. Before her passing, she held my hand and inquired, "Did you upset Emily? Don't worry about me. Go bring Emily back." Even in death, her thoughts were with Emily. "Grandma, I'm sorry. I failed you. I let you leave with regrets," I whispered. 3 days after managing her affairs back home, I returned to the city. Upon arriving, I noticed a pair of men's shoes that weren't mine. Before I could process it, a partially dressed man wrapped in a towel emerged from the room. "What are you doing here?" I asked coldly. Emily overheard and came out of the bedroom. I told Richard to come over. He had an accident, and no one was home to care for him. The way she spoke, it seemed like they were genuinely a couple. However, seeing Richard with one hand holding the towel and the other bandaged irritated me. Suddenly, Richard pouted and gazed at Emily with pleading eyes. "Emily, Tim doesn't seem to want me here. Maybe I should just leave." "No, it wasn't like that," I interrupted, showing my impatience. "If you want to care for him, go to his place. Don't bring him here and spoil my mood. I put a lot of effort into this place, planning to move in with Grandma after the wedding. But now, things have changed. Tim, what do you mean by this?" Emily's expression turned serious as she looked at me. After a moment, she continued, "Are you upset about the wedding? On our wedding day, Richard had an accident. His family is abroad, so I had to leave." To her, our wedding was a minor issue compared to everything else. I recalled when I had an appendectomy and asked her to come. She responded, "Why would you need me there? I'm not a doctor. It's pointless. Besides, I'm busy. If you're hungry, just order takeout." I had been bedridden in the hospital, unable to move, and she didn't even check on me. Yet Richard only had a small injury, and she left the wedding to care for him at our home. My heart ached thinking about it. I was ready to forgive if Emily had a legitimate reason. After all, she was the closest person to me aside from Grandma. But seeing my silent and troubled demeanor, she softened her tone. "All right, don't be upset. Let Richard stay a few days until he's better. We'll reschedule the wedding." She reached out to hold my hand, but I pulled away. "No need, there won't be a wedding. Emily, we're finished." Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. "Leave. This is my home." My stern demeanor made Emily visibly nervous. "Is Grandma angry? If she's upset, I'll return home with you in a few days to make amends. The wedding can wait." Mentioning Grandma brought another wave of sorrow. Grandma adored Emily like a granddaughter, even more than she loved me. And this is the thanks we get. Before I could respond, Richard interjected with a sneer. "If it weren't for your grandma holding that life-saving favor over Emily, she'd never marry you." "What did you say?" I couldn't tolerate him speaking about Grandma that way. I grabbed him by the collar, ready to strike. "Tim, what are you doing?" Seeing me about to hit Richard, Emily quickly tried to intervene. "Richard is injured. You can't hit him." She grabbed my arm. I wanted to pull away, but Richard's provocative look pushed me over the edge. I punched him straight in the face. If it weren't for him, Grandma wouldn't have died with regrets. Richard collapsed, and Emily quickly checked his face. Seeing the bruises forming on his cheek, she glared at me with tear-filled eyes. "Richard was right. It's you and Grandma who keep clinging to the past." I never expected Emily to say that. I was stunned and hurt, my heart aching so much it felt like I couldn't breathe. I never thought she viewed our kindness as holding on to the past. "Tim, leaving the wedding was wrong. But hitting him wasn't right either. Apologize to Richard, and we'll move past it. Tomorrow, I'll go with you to bring Grandma back. No need, I responded coldly, looking at Emily with determination. You two can enjoy yourselves. From now on, we'll go our separate ways. After saying this, I grabbed Emily and pulled her out of the house. Then, I yanked Richard by his collar and threw him outside. Once they were gone, I slammed the door shut, ignoring Emily's persistent banging and shouting from the other side. Tim, what's your problem? Open the door. Fine, don't open it, but you'll regret this. The wedding's off. Don't come begging with Grandma later. It won't work. Yeah, I was the one who begged for this wedding in the first place. 3 months ago, Grandma was gravely ill. The doctor said she didn't have long to live and that we should make her final days happy. Grandma held our hands and said, I won't have any regrets if I can see you two settle down. To honor Grandma's last wish, I pleaded with Emily to marry me within 3 months. We were merely dating initially, but she had always been distant with me. She always seemed aloof, but I thought it was just her personality. I believed her parents' issues had made her distrust men, but in reality, she simply didn't love me. I sat behind the door, letting the tears flow. From that moment on, I had no more family. My beloved Grandma passed away, and the girl I loved most was dead to me too. I packed a few belongings and returned home. Grandma's first 7 days had not yet passed. I needed to be there, or else if she returned and couldn't see me, she'd be heartbroken. During that time, Emily sent texts and even called. I ignored them all. What I didn't expect was her appearing in person at my hometown. I spent the morning at the cemetery talking to Grandma. Under the scorching sun, I was on my way home when I saw Emily in a red dress and sun hat carrying several gift boxes. They were probably for Grandma. When she noticed me, she smiled irritably and said, Why are you just standing there? Come help me. I approached, looking annoyed, and asked, Why are you back? Tim, I've already humbled myself to come back. Do you have to act like this? Take these. I handed her the supplements I had bought especially for Grandma. Emily accepted them, but I didn't take any. I walked past her toward home. Even if Grandma were still here, she couldn't consume those. No need. Grandma can't eat those anymore. I turned and entered the house. Emily followed. Tim, can't you stop being angry? Richard and I really aren't anything. Whatever, you won't understand. I'm looking for Grandma. Grandma? She called out just as she always did when she returned. Emily rarely visited. Even when she stopped by to see Grandma, she never stayed overnight, saying she didn't like coming back due to too many bad memories. I understood. As children, our families lived across a small road from each other. Her parents constantly fought. Grandma couldn't bear seeing her go through that and would always give her whatever treats I brought. When she was 10, her parents had a massive fight and even started hitting each other. No one watched their woodshed and it caught fire. I was only a child then, but I found the courage to run in and pull her out. However, I couldn't save her parents. My father happened to be home from the city, and when he heard her screaming for her parents, he ran into the fire and never emerged. By the time firefighters arrived, her parents and my father were already gone. Later, her uncle took her to the city for a few years. We reconnected in high school when I discovered her life at her uncle's wasn't good. I increased my care for her, and Grandma treated her like her own granddaughter, often sending me with food to school for her. Protecting her became a habit. I confessed my feelings after college, and we became a couple. I thought we'd be together forever. But no, Richard's plea, I need you, was enough to sway her. Whenever Grandma heard her voice, she'd come out smiling to greet her. Grandma always had her favorite snacks and black chicken soup ready when we visited. But now, Grandma couldn't smile and greet us anymore. Maybe Emily was starting to realize that. Emily frowned, looking a bit impatient, then walked inside. Seeing Grandma's picture and offerings on the table stopped her in her tracks. Seeing Grandma's picture and offerings on the table stopped her in her tracks. Grandma, she began. Yes, you're seeing it right. Grandma passed away. I replied on the day you left the wedding. My eyes welled with tears as I stared at her. Her face was shocked, and the gifts in her hands fell to the floor. Impossible. Grandma was always healthy. Didn't she pretend to be sick to rush us into marrying? So you thought she was lying? I scoffed, picking up her things and throwing them out. Take your stuff and leave. Don't ever come near me again. You're lying, right? Grandma's fine, isn't she? Emily grabbed my hand, tears streaming down her face. We treated her like a real granddaughter for so long. She must have had some feelings for Grandma, so why did she run from the wedding? She knew Grandma wasn't well, knew how much Grandma wanted to see us wed, and knew how much I loved her. Say something, Tim, she begged, eyes filled with panic. Before I could respond, the village chief called out at the door. Tim. Chief Ken walked in, handing me some papers and a book. These are some things your grandma left with me. See if you want to burn them for her or keep them. Grandma was an educated woman. Before marrying Grandpa, she'd studied, but the family faced hard times. After marrying, she dedicated herself to the household. Grandpa died young, and Grandma raised my father alone. My mother died during childbirth, and Grandma looked after me. She worked tirelessly, losing her family early, her husband in his prime, and her son in middle age. She endured immense pain. When I started working, Grandma would fetch books from the village office to pass the time. Knowing her love for books, I'd bought her many. The book the chief handed over was one of her favorites, filled with her thoughts and reflections. Grandma had beautiful handwriting, each stroke showing strength. My hands trembled as I took it, tears falling onto the pages as I read her notes. My condolences, the chief said, patting my shoulder, his eyes red before turning to leave. Then it was just Emily and me again. Emily finally accepted Grandma's passing and broke down crying. I ignored her, clutching the book as I packed Grandma's bedside books and took them to her grave. I wanted to burn the books for Grandma so she wouldn't be bored. I knelt by her grave, burning books and papers. Emily watched from the side. When she knelt by Grandma, I stopped her. No need for fake gestures. Don't tarnish Grandma's path to rebirth, Tim. She cried and called out to me. If it had been before, seeing her tear-streaked face, calling me so softly, I would have given anything for her. But now I just felt disgusted. I tossed the book I was holding into the fire, got up, and left. Emily followed me. I know I was wrong. Tim, won't you forgive me? She tried to hug me. I pushed her away harshly. Get lost. She bit her lip, silent, looking up at me with tear-filled eyes. I ignored her. When I got home, I shut the door. I didn't let her in. After Grandma's funeral, I returned to the city and resumed my normal work life. I initially took half a month off for my wedding. The plan was to stay with Emily in my hometown to be with Grandma during her final days. But now that the wedding's off and Grandma's gone, there was no reason to continue the leave. Several colleagues attended the wedding. At work, many close co-workers came to comfort me, especially Lily from my department. She gave me a big hug as soon as I arrived. Tim, you still have us. You're friends. Don't be sad. As others joined in with hugs, I was touched, feeling my nose tingle. The assistant to the boss even announced, "The boss said we're having a get-together tonight. Nobody's allowed to leave early." And I was grateful to have supportive colleagues and leaders. I rarely joined colleagues for meals because Emily didn't like it. I worked for a gaming company, and Emily always thought gaming companies weren't serious. She also disliked me socializing privately too much, so I mostly interacted with them for work. Still, it didn't affect my relationship with my coworkers. At the dinner table, everyone took care of me, piling my plate with food. My eyes welled up as I listened to them joke around to lift my spirits. I felt deeply moved. Maybe I'd been too stressed these past few days. I finally relaxed and drank one glass after another with them. When I was tipsy, it didn't feel so bad. My phone rang multiple times during dinner. I knew it was Emily. I had already deleted her contact, not knowing whose phone she used to call me. Annoyed, I turned off my phone. One more drink. Tim, you're drunk. Lily worried about me drinking too much and snatched my glass away. No, I'm not. I reached for the glass but lost my balance, falling into Lily. Hey, careful. Lily held me up. I was somewhat aware. I didn't fully lean on her, or she couldn't have held me. At this point, I heard my colleagues hooting and whistling, teasing Lily. Whoa, Lily, your face is so red. Lily got drunk on her drink. Lily is in my department, sort of my trainee. I've guided her since she joined the company, so naturally I defended her. Don't bully her. Oh wow, Tim, aren't you drunk? Still protecting Lily? Quit with the jokes. I stood up straight, grabbed my glass from Lily, poured another drink, and downed it. I guess I was truly drunk as I saw Emily standing outside the room, staring at me with red eyes. My hand trembled a bit, wanting to put the glass down. In that brief daze, I realized we were over and poured another drink, continuing with my colleagues. I had no idea how many drinks I had, but I knew I was drunk. Yet I saw Emily walk in, politely greeting my coworkers. She said, "I'm here to take Tim home." A colleague from my side helped me up. "Tim's had too much. Let's call it a night. Get him home to rest." I waved my arm. "I'm not drunk. Let's keep going." Of course, they didn't let me drink more. Dazedly, I felt two people carry me out of the restaurant. "Can you help him into the car?" "I'll take him home." Two colleagues exchanged glances before finally helping me into a car. After that, everything was a blur. When I woke up, it was the next day. I woke up in my own bed, smelling congee. I got out of bed, walked to the living room, and saw a familiar figure busy in the kitchen. Seeing me, Emily in an apron turned with a smile. "Tim, you're up. Go wash up. I made your favorite pork congee." What a cozy scene. A life I once dreamed of. Her in an apron, cooking for me. I had dreamt of this many times. But her doing it now, what was the point? I went back, washed up, and changed. When I came out, Emily had breakfast ready and even poured warm water for me. "Had a lot to drink last night? Is your head hurting?" I turned away, not taking the water, but poured my own at the table. After chugging a glass, my stomach felt better, and I was fully awake. "You don't have to do this. We're done," I said coldly. I wasn't being dramatic. I was truly detached. Looking at the fragrant congee and pancakes, I had no appetite. I remembered graduating and starting at the company. It was growing. Once, I drank too much at a client dinner with the boss. Emily sent me pork congee the next day. I joked, "If someday you make me congee, I'd be the happiest man." One weekend, while visiting my grandma, Emily actually learned to make congee from her. I was overjoyed, thinking she did it for me until Richard said she'd made congee for him too. Annoyed, she explained it was because Richard was ill. She learned 2 congee words from her for me, and I was appeased, but she never made it for me until now. Years later, I finally saw her congee. It's laughable. I stormed out without touching it. Just before heading out, he told her, "I'll give you 2 days to move your stuff out next time I'm back. I don't want to see you or any of your things." I thought Emily would leave once I said that, but no. 2 days later, I came back, and there she was, ready with a big dinner. "Tim, you're back," she said, smiling and approaching like the perfect housewife, trying to take my coat. I tossed the coat onto the couch, annoyed. "Why haven't you left yet?" "Where would I go?" She acted clueless, throwing her arms around me. "Tim, don't make me leave." "Okay. You know I've got nothing but you. No home, no family, just you." Back then, I fell for that act. No matter what she did to upset me, she'd hug me and say I was all she had, and I'd forget I was angry. But now, I didn't love her anymore, so I didn't feel sorry for her like I used to. "I know you were on a business trip these past few days," she said. "I've done a thorough cleaning of the house while you were away and even learned to cook your favorite braised pork." She held out her red hands. I burnt my hands cooking. It really hurts. I turned my head away, not looking at her hands. After being together for so long, all I ever wanted was for her to make porridge for me once in a while, with no expectations beyond that. I always handled the cleaning, laundry, and cooking. I never dreamed of coming home to a clean house and dinner ready. "Tim, eat first, okay?" she pleaded softly. "No need, I already ate." I pushed past her, heading into the bedroom, pulling her clothes out of the closet. "Since you won't pack your things, I'll do it for you." Emily loved shopping. Clothes, bags, jewelry, you name it. I used to spend thousands on these things for her every month. Most of the closet was hers. Seeing I meant business, Emily panicked. She must have thought I'd calm down if she sweet-talked me like before. "Tim, what are you doing?" she shouted, trying to stop me, but she couldn't match my strength. "Don't do this to me, Tim. I really know I was wrong," she cried, clutching at my legs. "I don't want to leave. I'm begging you, don't make me go." I glared down at her. "Didn't want to leave now, huh? But when I begged you at the wedding to stay and complete the ceremony, you walked out without hesitation. Because you left so suddenly, everything was in chaos. My grandma, she left so quickly after that. Did you know? Right before she passed, she was still worried about you. She asked me if I'd upset you, told me to forget about her and bring you back. Grandma treated you like her own. And what did you do for her? I loved you so much. Did you ever love me?" My questions made Emily's face turn pale. She shook her head, crying and begging over and over. "Tim, don't make me leave, please." But I didn't relent. I neatly packed her things using those compression bags we used when moving and placed everything in the living room. "I'll give you one more night to take your things. If you're still here when I get back, I'll toss them out." With those words, I grabbed my car keys and left, not knowing where to go. I called a couple of colleagues to grab some barbecue. They were guys from my department. Unexpectedly, Lily came too. She was just leaving the office, and they invited her along. "Tim, you don't mind, right?" they asked. "Why would I mind?" I replied. "We're all colleagues here." I never saw Lily as more than a co-worker, though Emily had argued with me about her before. Once, while eating, Lily texted me about a code problem she couldn't solve. I put down my chopsticks to text her instructions. Emily saw our chat and got upset right away, calling Lily a green tea girl. She said no one asks about work stuff after hours. To be fair, Lily and I rarely talked outside of work. On that day, I should have stayed late, but I had promised Emily dinner the day before. So I asked a coworker to help finish my tasks. He couldn't, so he passed it to Lily. That's why she messaged me. After that, I tried to avoid spending too much time with Lily, worried about Emily's jealousy. But now, Emily and I were done, so I could hang out with Lily openly. We were just regular colleagues anyway. Halfway through the drinks, I took a restroom break. Outside, I ran into Richard. He seemed a bit surprised to see me, stubbed out his cigarette, and approached me. "Looking good." "Huh? Using your grandma to trap Emily. Smooth move," he sneered. "Watch your mouth," I warned him. Richard was the one who kept telling Emily I'd lied about Grandma's illness to trap her into marriage. Of course, Emily didn't want to marry me either. My grandma, just trying not to worry her, said she was fine. "Well, the old hag kicked it, served her right," Richard taunted. I couldn't stand him talking about my grandma like that. I threw a punch at him. This time, without Emily around, he didn't act weak and fought back. We both held nothing back, exchanging blows until an hour later. We ended up at the police station, our faces swollen. "I'm not settling," he shouted inside, causing a scene. Arms crossed, I looked at him quietly. "Cop tried reasoning with him. You were in the wrong, too. His grandma just passed. You shouldn't disrespect the deceased." "What did I say? I didn't kill his grandma. I can say whatever the hell I want." His arrogance didn't stop until Emily showed up. As soon as she walked in, Richard started whining, acting pitiful. "Emily, finally you're here." He changed expressions rapidly, like a Sichuan opera face changer. Hearing a sound, Emily glanced at him first. She lifted her foot to walk over to him. Then, suddenly, she noticed me. In the end, despite Richard's hateful stare, Emily approached me with concern. "Are you okay?" I turned my head away, ignoring her. She then turned to Richard. "What happened? Why are you fighting like this? He hit me first." Richard was perfectly playing the victim. Seeing Emily, he almost threw himself at her, tears and all. Emily spoke to the police to understand the situation. Then she gently said to Richard, "Since no one's hurt, let's leave." "Okay?" "No, I want him to apologize to me. If he says sorry, I'll drop it." Emily looked up at me, but I just looked away, staying silent. That's when Lily barged in. "Why should Tim apologize? Richard was the one who insulted Tim's grandma." "Did you hear what I said?" Richard looked up at Lily. No, Lily hadn't heard. She just came in to stand up for me after overhearing a bit. There was video surveillance, but no audio, so Richard's words weren't recorded. "If you weren't spewing filth, Tim wouldn't have hit you." Lily looked like she wanted to slap him. "Bullshit. It's not the first time he hit me. He's jealous of me. All right, enough." The police intervened. Emily glanced between me and Richard. "Okay, Richard, I'll apologize on Tim's behalf. Can we just drop this?" "Humph." Emily tugged Richard's hand lovingly. "Fine, for you, I won't make a big deal out of it." Richard acted all noble, letting things go, making him seem grossly insincere. And if I didn't want Lily and the others to stay longer with me here, I'd have punched him again. Such a hypocrite. After signing the papers, the police let us leave. Once outside, Emily immediately approached me. "Go away." I brushed her hand off. "Tim, are you still mad? I came out here in the middle of the night for you. Didn't he call you?" I turned to Richard. "Richard, Emily called," I said, looking back at him. "Richard, I think you've misunderstood. I never intended to be with you. The one I love is Tim." When she said that, I saw Richard's face change completely, his pupils dilating. "Emily, didn't you say you only felt grateful to him? You said he and his grandma pressured you because of the rescue." "Richard, shut up," Emily interrupted loudly. She turned to me and explained. "Tim, it's not like that. I never said those things. It's got nothing to do with me anymore." I didn't want her explanations. I walked toward Lily's car. Emily, in her heels, came over and grabbed my hand. "Tim, give me another chance, please. I really know I was wrong, and I'll change." "Let go." I shook her hand off. She lost her balance and fell to the ground. "Are you okay?" Richard rushed to help her, but she pushed his hand away too. "Ha! Belated affection is worth less than dirt. If I were you, I'd leave as far away as possible." Lily stood by the driver's door, twirling the car keys, looking coldly at Lily on the ground. "Is it because of her?" Emily suddenly turned to Lily. "You fell for her, didn't you? So you want to dump me?" I marveled at Emily's thought process. There was nothing between Lily and me, but to get rid of her, I simply said, "If that makes you leave, then yes." Leaving her with that, I got into Lily's car. The car drove away, and Emily's tear-streaked face became a distant memory. For a moment, I thought I saw young Emily, trapped in the fire at her window on the second floor, shouting for me, "Tim, save me." I used to think I rescued Emily from that fire and that I was responsible for her. I vowed to protect her forever, but now I questioned if I regretted that choice. I don't think I do. Even if I could go back, I'd still rush in to save her. If I had a choice, I would never have fallen in love with her. Until Emily's image vanished from the rearview mirror, I turned to Lily in the driver's seat. "Sorry for using you back there." It's nothing," Lily replied with an easy smile. During the silent ride home, once we arrived, Lily suddenly said, "Tim, have you ever thought about dating me?" I was surprised for a second. Then it clicked. She was asking if I'd be her boyfriend. The thing is, from what I knew, that person wouldn't give up easily. The best way was to find another girlfriend. I thought I'd be a good choice. Truthfully, aside from Lily, there wasn't another girl around me. The company was all guys, but I only ever thought of her as a colleague. And after all this, I wasn't in the mood for a relationship. "No thanks." "Nah." I've already cleared things with her. I don't want to drag you into this. I pretty much ran away. Walking forward, I thought I heard Lily's soft, bitter laugh. It's not dragging. I'd help you willingly. So she did like me, but right now, I'm unsure. At home, I found Emily's stuff still lying around. This bothered me. I wasn't sure what to do. Like Lily said, Emily wasn't giving up easily. To keep her away from the house, I removed her fingerprint and Face ID from the lock and changed the code. The next morning, I saw her sitting by the front door. Ignoring her, I went to work. At the office, Lily placed some breakfast on my desk. I walked by your favorite bakery, so I got you some. Did you really buy a lot? I had my doubts. Just as I was wondering, I received a text from Lily. Hey, those buns were bought especially for you. Tim, honestly, I've had a crush on you for a while. Really? Would you think about us? At first, I just wanted to focus on work. I even thought about getting a dog and living with it. But since that day, Lily seemed to always be there when I needed someone. That day, it rained just as I got off the work. When I came downstairs, there was Emily with an umbrella. Tim, she waved at me. I didn't have an umbrella, and my car wasn't an option due to the license plate restrictions. Trying to figure out my next move, Lily suddenly showed up behind me and hooked my arm. Let's head home together. Almost instinctively, I got into her car. As we drove past Emily, I noticed her face was pale, her eyes starting to redden. But despite her sadness, I felt no emotion. At that moment, I realized her feelings couldn't affect me anymore. Dropping me home, Lily didn't leave. She followed me upstairs. I've heard you're a great cook. Since I've been your chauffeur today, how about you cook me dinner? I couldn't refuse, so I went up and prepared a meal as a thank you. After dinner, Lily insisted on doing the dishes. When I refused, she jokingly accused me of looking down on her. Next time then, you wash, I said without thinking. She immediately let go. All right, I said. You said next time. Realizing I had fallen for her trick, I quickly collected the dishes and headed to the kitchen. While washing, Lily came up from behind and hugged me. Tim, I really like you. I felt a slight flutter in my chest, and my body tensed up. Sorry, I'm really not ready for another relationship. I refused her. She didn't give up. Every day she'd bring me breakfast, lunch, and an umbrella on rainy days. Finally, a month later, I gave in. I remember that night I drank too much. She took me home, made me hangover soup, and coaxed me to drink it like a child. At that moment, I suddenly wished we could live our lives like this forever, to have a girl like her. Her care felt like a blessing beyond measure. Later, when we got together, I asked her when she started liking me. She said it was her first day at the company. Love at first sight? Pretty much, she replied. I only remembered spilling water on my documents during a meeting. A man beside me called me clumsy. You handed me some paper, she smiled. No worries, just wipe it off. It turned out this minor gesture led to such amazing love. 2 years later, Lily and I got married. We had a traditional wedding we both loved. At the wedding, our fun-loving colleagues made us a hilarious video. Lily wasn't mad. She laughed along with everyone else. We laughed, played, and completed our wedding. Before the wedding, I received a text wishing me happiness. I knew who it was from, but I didn't reply. In those 2 years, I never purposely inquired about Emily. Occasionally, I'd get updates from her, saying she quit her job to travel. Eventually, she went to the mountains to teach. She didn't end up with Richard. Richard married a girl from a similar background, but after cheating, their relationship fell apart, and they lost the baby. Eventually, he divorced and now lives alone. The last time I saw him, he was nearly unrecognizable. He used to be so confident, but that seemed to have faded with time. Honestly, I don't really care about them anymore. I just hope to spend the rest of my life with the one I love. At the wedding, the officiant asked me, "Do you take Miss Lily to be your lawfully wedded wife? Will you love her, care for her, through sickness and health, till death do you part?" I nodded firmly. "I do,